finishing a tassel pendant with a wrapped loop is not the only way. You could still finish it but just by using beading thread and needle, and here's how. So here's what we will need: 6-pound fire line beading thread and size 10 beading needle. So I'm going to be using this in double strands. So before making it into a double strand, I've slipped in a seed bead there to use it as a stop bead. And then you see I have threaded it in double, just because I need more strength for the bail to hang this heavy pendant. These are the other materials that we will need: a few bead caps and an accent bead. We'll begin by slipping our needle from the bottom to the top of the POT tube that we have made. And now you'll understand why I put in that stop bead there. So that is what is going to hold our thread from slipping into the tube. So after you bring the thread out, now we are going to add the bead cap. So you added the bead cap. Next, another bead cap in the opposite direction, then the accent bead, and this bead cap to cover it. Okay, so this is all that this is going to be the decorative part of the bail. And now I'm going to make the loop. To make the loop, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up several seed beads and adjust to see what is the size of the loop that I need. So for the beginning, I am picking up 5 of the blue, 3 of the yellow, and again 5 of the blue. So this sequence can be in any order, and also it can be any number. So what is important is, so when you make it into a loop like this, so this loop should be able to accommodate the chain that you are going to use for this tassel. So if it's a thin chain, you will need a thinner loop, and for a thicker chain you will need a bigger loop. So once again I'm going to check to see if this is what I will need. And since I'm going to be adding this on a slightly thinner chain, I think I can make this loop a little smaller. So to make it smaller, what I will need to do is, we'll need to take out some beads from this. So I'm doubly checking to make sure if this is the size I need or if this is too big for me. So it's always better to check before we make any decisions, and once we stitch it, it's going to be not easy to change it again. So I've decided that I will make the loop a little bit smaller. So now I have 4 blue beads and 3 yellow, followed by 4 blue beads again. So this will make it a little bit smaller than what it was. And now once we added the beads, I am going to go through the same direction in which we came up, through the bead caps, the accent beads, the bigger bead cap, and or pass it through the peyote tube and bring the needle out. So if you cannot pull the needle out, and I'm using a plier to just get hold of the needle. So bring it out, and now we don't need the beads, and let's push that away. So when you bring it out and give it a little tug, see, you can see that our the loop is nice and tight there, and also the other accent beads are all sitting in place correctly. So when you're sure of that, now we are going to make more passes. So before we make more passes, you first have to take your needle through that stop bead that we have added there in the beginning. So pass your needle through the stop bead and make sure that your thread is not caught up in any of the numerous tassels that are hanging there. And then go back up the same way once again. This is just to reinforce it. So find the space or the middle of the tube and pass it through the tube once again. So this is reinforcing once again, and that's what we are doing. We are not adding or removing anything here. And now is the time for you to give it a pull and make it nice and tight like how we want it. Pass it through all the bead caps, the accent beads and the seed beads once again. So earlier there were 2 strands of thread between inside the beads. Now this will add another 2, so it will be 4 strands of fire line thread in the loop there, so which is quite a strong connection. And after you passed through all the seed beads in the loop, we'll go back down in the same direction without missing any of the bead caps or the beads. So make space. It could be you may have to go down in bits instead of trying to go down in one go. So very carefully make sure that you pass your needle through all of them, and then once again you are going to bring your needle back from where we started. So this has been a great reinforcement for this bail, and it's going to stay nice and tight like this if you do this method. But make sure that you use nice strong fire line or any similar thread like that. And this should be sufficient. But if you think you have the thread and then there is more space, you could do this reinforcement once again. So depending on the thread that you have and depending on the size of the bead hole, you have to make your judgment and see if you want to do this pass once again. So now it is a good fit, and I'm happy with how strong it is. But I just want to see if I have enough thread. I want to make sure I use it up wisely, so I may want to go up and reinforce once again. So let me try if it's possible. See, I'm just checking if the length of my thread is good enough for making another pass up and down. And I decided that I will instead of wasting the thread, I will use it to reinforce it. So I'm trying to go up the POT tube inside the POT tube once again. So which can be easy because the tube can accommodate enough number of strands of thread, but it might get a little difficult when we go up to the seed beads. So you see I've taken out the thread from one of the bead caps, and now I'll have to push this needle up this accent bead and up the other bead cap also. I could have pushed the needle straight up if that was possible, but since my needle came out already, I took out the needle. But now I'm finding it difficult to pass through the accent bead and the bead cap up once again. So let me give it a try. I don't want to having come up all this way, I don't want to give up. I want to make one more pass to make it more strong. But I think it's a little impossible to get the angle, to put my needle through and get a proper angle to pass through the accent bead there. Well, I'm not ready to give up yet, so let me keep trying. Looks like it's not It's not going to be that easy unless I really bend my needle a little bit and then try to push it inside. So I've decided not to go ahead with that pass, and I'm going to go back again. Okay, here you need not worry about if the thread doesn't come through, you need not worry, because as it is, it will come through, but don't worry about getting stuck in between or anything. That's not going to happen. So once you have brought the thread out and you are sure that the bail, the loop, and all your accent beads and bead caps are all in place like this, we can now wind up the thread. Okay, see, it was as easy as that. It was just passing up and down 2 or 3 times to secure the bail. But your beading thread should be a nice strong one. And if your bead hole permits, you could even use a thicker fire line so that it will be more nice and strong. But this is a good one. I am just suggesting. And once you're done, this is the way to wind it up. So make some few knots in the place where you started. You could even go up the beads of the peyote tube once or twice and try to make some knots there. Okay, go up the tube and not up the tassels. And just like how you will wind up or finish thread when you're doing the beadwork, in the same way you're going to wind up this thread also. So make some zigzag motions and make some knots in between wherever possible, and that will be a nice tight finish for this. Yeah, you can take it through a few beads. You can go up and down. You can do a zigzag motion. So all this is just to secure the thread. So because the beads are already loaded with a lot of threads, that is why it's difficult to pass the needle through that. So just make way for it wherever possible. You can make a knot there, because it's anyway all going to be hidden inside the beadwork. So for safety's sake, make at least 2 or 3 knots before you finish your thread. I'm sorry, a little bit off camera, I think it's not in focus, but if you watched my videos, you will know how to finish the thread. I've also shown it in detail in the first part of the video. And whenever I have enough thread, I'll always try to make more and more knots and secure it more tightly, because I feel, since I have thread, let me do a few more passes or let me do a few more knots to make it more, to reinforce it nicely. And instead of leaving the thread after you knot it, just put your needle through a few beads up the peyote tube that we made, and then we are ready to cut off the thread then. See how much time we spend in making the beadwork. We should also be very careful to finish it properly, to knot it properly, and to hide the ends properly, so that our beadwork will be neat and tidy. So once now it's done, we can very carefully snip off the extra there, and see a nice bail is ready with just beading thread and needle. I hope this tutorial was clear to you, and if you have any questions, please post them in the comment section. Thank you for watching.